It may be possible that the person you know as your friend, or friends, or even relatives even, or one person, they're one being, brought into the company or aura of the teacher as a different being. And you have to deal with that. Because it's very possible that Agni Shanti changed when she was here. Comment. Right? From before and after. And so we're talking about your friend maybe changing. Slightly modified because they had something different to relate to that may have been different for them. Psychically and emotionally, it could have been different. So the resonance that was created could have been something which gave the person a little bit of a healing, because they're not going to get the same fight from the teacher. It's a whole different being, different level of response, and the interests and the complicated sort of karmas that exist between the person and their universe has nothing to do with this. So that there's an alteration in the being of the person that's kind of like normal. I'm not saying it's good or bad, it's just normal. Come in. Same with any other, like other people, like her people, her friends may have a whole different mindset about it until they get here, and then that may disappear. We don't know what happens. It's not done by anyone's person. That might just be the phenomena of the engagement in that case, or let's say the spirit.
So, spiritually speaking, is it possible to move too fast? Is it possible to take too large of a step?
It's possible. Anything's possible. One back, one forward, but that's an appearance. That's not necessarily the truth. But that's an appearance. Is it possible to eat too much food? Yes, it is. You can overeat. Can you over-inform? Yes, you can be over-informed. But does any of that have anything to do with spiritual progress? No one knows. But you need hardships, or there's no genius. You need practice, or there's no enlightenment. Comment.
Yeah.
So anything you see in terms of the world of appearances relative to people you know, is all subject to change, like this. Who's keeping up with that? That's the question.
Can you talk about the teacher's role relative to attachment?
What does that mean? The teacher's attachment?
Yeah,
attachment to a teacher?
Exist?
What?
Attachment to a teacher, teacher's attachment to teacherhood or to a student. Is that real? Is that indicative of a real teacher?
Well, I'm sure there are teachers who are attached, but they may also be attached to their family too. So, we don't have evidence of that here yet. There's no evidence to that at this point. We're not talking about love of the family. We're talking about attachment to what tests that. So, what is the test for that?
Loss.
Well, let's hear. What's the test of the attachment? Yeah.
A test of the attachment. I mean, if one becomes detached, what happens?
If you become detached from what?
Well,
If you become detached, what do you mean? From your self-mind, your suffering? What happens is rise. There's no question about that, theoretically or analytically, if you want to put it in those terms. There's rise. We're talking about what happens when there's no suffering. Do we need an answer, or is there some kind of intuitive understanding? When there's no suffering, maybe there is happiness. So we want to appreciate the fact, but that's obvious. It should be very obvious. So what exactly do you want to hear about the teacher and the attachment or detachment of any teacher? Right. So maybe they're all relatively attached. We have to give them that because they're humans. Are they human? We say yes, everybody's human, right? And some teachers are more attached because they have to be, perhaps, right, to family and children and whatever is going on in their case. And we grant them that. So that's not the final judgment of their attachment. That's maybe appropriate attachment, functional level of attachment. So again, what tests that for anybody? So, and one should watch one's own attachments, if you can analyze that properly, and see that you detach yourself from things you know are keeping you down and keeping you in a certain kind of lock program. So I wouldn't worry too much about the teaching. In this case, he's not concerned about those very things exactly. So, And there are no attachments. We have to get to that point. What attachments? There are no real attachments. How can a teacher say that? Why would a teacher say that? There is no such thing as an attachment. Question?
It's come up a few times, or maybe even more than a few times, that the Tibetan Buddhist ChogyamTrungpaji is a little bit problematic, particularly...
You mean controversial?
Yeah, his lifestyle begs a lot of questions about his teachings, because he was an alcoholic. He had some pretty serious accidents.
That's blood.
Yeah.
It's blood. Go ahead.
And, and the way that his community was conducted at, certain points were, rather reckless. But...
what are you saying?
Oh, like there are certain...
his behaviors were reckless.
His behaviors and the behaviors of those around him.
They seem to be reckless.
They seem to be reckless.
And they may have been. They may have been. Was he forgivable?
Yeah. How about that? Like, what's up with this phenomenon?
I can't answer for anyone as far as that goes. But how you feel about any teachers, how you feel about the teacher. If you're asking me, do I think people should drink and carry on like that? I have judgments on that. Yeah, I was born into alcoholism, so I'm saying, well, I understand it, and I love my relatives very much, very deeply, very profoundly. Right? But they were troubled. They were troubled. And not everybody can handle the booze. So I think this is opening to an interesting place, so pursue it. Because you're giving me a statement about a known teacher and who was well known, very well known. Yeah. It was crucial in the advancement of and development of the Tibetan teachings here in the United States of America and throughout the world, outside of Tibet.
So how...
That was his job, by the way. He had to do it. But I think his guru didn't tell him what condition he had to be in to do it. He just said, you got to do this. Get over there, get the teachings there, move them out of Tibet, get them over there safely, and if you're going to be with the hippies, you got to be with the hippies. Well, you got to be one to be with the hippies. That makes sense, and I would say I understand that.
Does his karmic condition or his alcoholism in any way reflect on the teachings that he was passing on?
What do you mean reflect on the teachings?
Discredit
I'm not
them.
sure exactly what you're talking about.
Does the
Are you
fact
saying
that
his
he
condition?
was an alcoholic discredit his teachings?
I wasn't around him to tell you, if it reflected badly on his teachings or not.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I couldn't tell you. I couldn't speak as an eyewitness or a personal relation or relative to it. I wasn't in that community at that point.
Mm-hmm.
See? So I couldn't say for sure that was my judgment. But of course there is a lot of information, and again, I have an opinion about drunken gurus, but we know that the traditions are full of them,
Yeah.
and a few Zen gurus have been quite drunken in themselves. I'm not sure to what degree they didn't recover from their drunkenness first thing in the next morning. I'm not sure who they were at 6 a.m. the next day. Couldn't tell you if they were still drunken or not, or remained drunken, and if that's what it took for them to disseminate or to transmit what it was that they were there to transmit. I can't give you an opinion about that. That would be valid. It's none of my business.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a great conversation. So what else? What other charges do you have?
Well, do any karmic conditions strictly prohibit or make very dubious what someone is saying relative to the Dharma?
It depends on word to action. Right. Depends on what his word was. And it depends on what he did. And that you can make a judgment one way or other relative to that. So you would really have to be close to the person to determine whether or not his drunkenness got in the way of what he was there to do. Except that, with the exception that the state of, or stupor of drunkenness is maybe not very useful to people. Other people, especially if they have to carry him around or help him to get to bed and so on, if he passes out here or along the way. I think the question is overall, what's the general consensus of what he was doing, what he was teaching? And if he's entitled, because he is the great Vidyadhara or the Mahatma or whatever, if he was entitled to get drunk on occasion, or maybe as a way of life towards the end of his life, it's hard to judge that. So you have maybe a moral judgment, but then we have to, did that impair the Dharma? Was the Dharma really compromised in the process? I couldn't say anything about that, because I wouldn't know. I wasn't there. It was a good question. Don't worry about it. You're not going to see me drunk on anything except beauty.
Yeah.
I haven't reached that level of maturity yet where I can even afford to think in those terms. Yeah, coming.
Do karmic conditions at all dictate?
Well, there are karmic conditions. Everybody's in a karmic condition. Let's break it down. This is a karmic condition. Life is karmic conditioning. See? And it depends on what your issues are that you feel that bring you to the Dharma or bring you to a teacher to help you sort of navigate through or resolve for yourself. And what the wisdom or key is. Okay. I had a grandfather who was a drunk as a skunk, but as brilliant as the sun, and kind as his biggest heart ever. And so that's a little bit of a paradox, a little bit of a strange sort of predicament, perhaps. When he was drunk, he told me that I should become a yogi. I didn't hear that from anybody else who was sober. And I said, Grandpa, what's a yogi? And he said, one who will live a long life and live it wisely. And so that caught me. I was caught in that moment. As a child, I remember it, as I remember now, from a drunk, or from the mouth of a babe, what it is can come through. You need to know what you're hearing, and sometimes go beyond the appearance of what it is. Drunkenness, baby, bird, maybe. You hear it from a bird. Maybe a dragonfly, as I was receiving that in the summer. My friendship with Ruma. right? Well, golden dragonfly. Intelligence is present. Intelligence, wisdom is present. But who opens to it enough to know it for themselves or for itself? We're in the spirit field of space. So this is a space field. Mind, in fact. At what level, for who, under what conditions? Question mark. Who isn't this for and who is this for? In terms of what awakenment means, going beyond, or what the status quo was a moment ago, going beyond that. Going beyond that word, going beyond that moment, going beyond that memory, going beyond that thought, that feeling, or that action. Going beyond. Gone, already got you. Into enlightenment stillness, to use a phrase. And then taking that beyond to emptiness realization, to use another phrase. Yeah. So in the light or in the consideration of what that isn't, what else could be more important for people on the path?
Practitioners have examples of enlightenment in stories. The Buddha, Jesus, gurus, Rinpoches, etc.
Wise ones, elders. Yes, of course. Saints, even.
Yeah.
Not to exclude the saints. Right. The saintly beings. Go ahead.
And they're also faced with the reality that in terms of life path and karma and situation, maybe everybody's dealing with something that has a slightly different trajectory than, say, ascension within a tradition or starting a tradition, like, say, Siddhartha, the Buddha. So how can one relate one's karma and life situation and trajectory with ultimate realization, which seems to be reserved for the immortals?
Seems. No, it's not reserved for anybody, except everybody. So I would question whether or not any of the immortals are saying, oh, just you can get this. What it is heart practice, it's universal heart awareness, heart presence. So that even the natives, right, for some people, the most primitive of all species, having to be the wisest because of their basic understanding of what it is, which is native. So native to existence on the earth. So it's native to earth. That means all of earth's creatures. Right. Sons and daughters, beings, all of earth's beings. This is mother then. What's native to Mother Earth, which we are native to Mother Earth. Our brains are native to Mother Earth. Our hearts are native to Mother Earth. And our intelligence is native to Mother Earth and the universe. And that's the difference, maybe, between beings. To what degree is their mind open to what? Because we're talking about the Dharma, we're talking about big words for the Dharma. Enlightenment, right? Infinite intelligence potential. It's big. It's big as the universe itself. Boundless. Boundless. Heart is boundless. Boundlessness. Heart practice presence. And falling into that void or emptiness is what practice is about, and what enlightenment is the ultimate realization of. It's nothing. Void. And from that, you're able to do anything and everything as needed, according to your karma, according to destiny, according to your, maybe your choice.
A lot of the tradition, a lot of the meditation practice is mental. Is it the mind that becomes
Are you
enlightened?
sure it's mental? Or does it appear to be mental? When we say it's mental, it could be emotional, could be psychic, could be intuitive, and all of them together. So it could be all. Could be an act. It is. It's everything. Woman.
What becomes enlightened?
Nothing. Enlightenment is nothingness. No thing at all. Empty. Why the word emptiness if you're going to be sort of heaping all these sort of objects on it? So, but that is fundamental to the realization of emptiness. The emptiness, the zero-ness, the clearness. Therefore, it's called clear light realization. Because we are that clear light reality. We are that. Not just for a moment, not always that, but not conscious as that. Not necessarily conscious in that, of that, by that, or for that, but conscious as that already is. As it is. So he's in his zone now, he's talking gibberish.
Does enlightenment occur in the same way for everybody?
Good question.
It's rolling.
Oh, okay. In that case, it is what it is. Yeah. It is what it is. It is what is. It couldn't be anything but what is. So to call it this or call it that is not what it is. So it's beyond description. And yet it is what it is. At the same time, we can say that's enlightenment. We say the Buddha was enlightened. We don't know that, but we say the Buddha's enlightenment itself. And we may not know that. But we're being that, but we're being a form of it, or a version of it that is called well, self-identified. It's human. But that's also enlightenment. Enlightenment's the whole thing. It's everything and nothing. See? All at once. And so it's this, it's that, and then the final kick of the can is saying, it's neither. It's neither. It's nothing. So there comes a time when it's play on words, but then it becomes your practice. So you hold yourself to the fire of what that is. And you enjoy the burn of purification or transcension. If you can. Hugh.
How does a student find a teacher?
We can't say they ever find a teacher. Maybe you can't find a teacher. Maybe the teacher is not findable. Maybe that is a little bit of a Zen response to you. You can't find the teacher. If you can find the teacher, maybe that's not the teacher. Maybe the finding isn't the teacher either. So in that case, there's no teacher to find. So, what if there's no teacher to find? Question.
Seemed like Trungpa showed up at a certain time in a certain place and in a certain way that caused
the person is showed up. Right? The wisdom is still here. His purpose is to bring the wisdom. I feel his purpose was to make real and live from a certain level of higher intelligence, right? With wisdom intelligence, or let's put it differently in their terms, it's like Vajrayana, Vajrasattva intelligence, right? Paradoxical intelligence, right? Crazy wisdom intelligence, right? Neither for nor against anything. Bingo. Not for or against anything. Neither this nor that, and then neither this nor that. Nor not this nor that. So, And the Vajrayana is like, who knows and who cares? Who goes and who dares? There's nothing there to hold on to at all. It's gone beyond gati, param gati, parasamgati, bodhisattva. It's gone beyond. What is there? What is there? What is there to look at? What is there to complain about? What is there to judge? What is there to do anything about? See, what is there at all? See, if that's the ground, right? The holy ground.
Yeah.
Please.
So you just said you're asking me to divulge something.
Well, you're asking questions, as if I could know something, see? As if there's a knowing regarding some of these things. See? There's a relative knowing, but there's no absolute knowing of what it is. In any case, in every case, see? So we have to be fair about it as let's say, practicing yogis. It's relative.
So
who's sober is relative. Please continue.
What can you divulge? Concerning maybe next steps or.
The next step is always what is present. We talked about this earlier in terms of where else could enlightenment be if there was such a thing, except as it's presently recognized or known, or as it is. The next step, if there is a next step, is to engage in what it already is. Who can do that? Or who can't do that? As it already is. So what is the is that is? The already is. Who knows?
What is the secret?
Obviousness. the supreme obviousness. With the full emptiness. The obvious co-emergence of its oldness. A raindrop.
Is there anything to learn from or take from the sleeping state or the state of unconscious that we go into every night?
It uses you and keeps you asleep. And especially when you're awake, you're asleep. Until you enter, let's say, the awakeness of awakeness. Then there's like no sleep. There's nothing. We're going back to another word, phrase that is used, clear light awareness. Present. Body awake, body asleep, clear light awareness is present. We can go deeper and say, well, that clear light awareness is the heart of being itself. It's the unconscious, as you might call it, or the superconscious as it guides us and enables us to come back and finish our mission and purpose. So superconscious, unconscious, superconscious. See, no conscious, none whatsoever. The all-conscious. Excellent thing to meditate upon. No consciousness.
Do you have any recommendations for how to deal with practice within life? Say formal practice, sitting, meditation.
You have to practice all the time. The only way to practice is to be continually practicing. And so that's what you have to do, is have continuity with every moment of what your life is about. It's not like a beginning and an end, sitting down, ritual of practice, and that's the only exclusive time. You sit down to do a certain form of practice, which is then a formal form of practice, which is not practice. It's momentary practice. It begins and ends, right, in your head. Right, in your face. It's like something you did, so you can say, oh, I practiced today, so let me go and do what else I have to do now. I did my practice. God, I did my practice. Buddha, I did my practice. Right? Jesus, I did my practice already. Now I can go out with the boys. I did twice. I did double. Let me get out there and hang out. Let me do double, whatever else I have to do. No, this is not about that at all. It's not practice. Well, you have to practice with every breath. Just breathe. We have to talk. We had talked to it, but just breathe. Just breathe. You have to think, you think. Just breathe. You have to have a conversation with somebody. Just breathe. Conversation with somebody, but you're just breathing. Need to run around like a chicken without its head out there? Just breathe. And drive all over the place on whatever your means of transportation is. Roller skates, right? Skateboards, whatever. hand gliders, whatever it is. Just breathe. And do a job to do. Just breathe. Then we have the additional dimension of just you. Make the exhalation more conscious and more intense. Underneath everything you have to do when you're standing in the bank or going to the bathroom, be with nothing. The hue gone. The gone hue. Release. The complete letting go of everything. And taking care of business, because we have that part of us that's simultaneous. The functional part is not other than the higher intelligence part. Yeah. Fingers on the hand. They work together. Deepest intelligence awareness. Bake a cake. All right. Turn the vegetarian hamburgers over now. They're ready. Don't burn them. Just in time. Boom, perfect. Yeah. Nothing changed. Just breathe. Continue. Breathe. Awareness of just breathing. And maybe that's too much even. So you have awareness of awareness. But we're not talking about the moment of it. We're talking about the infinite moment of what it is, and thus the presence of what it is. Just breathing. Nothing happened. Nothing happens but just breathing. So just breathing, you begin to let go of your thoughts because you're doing something that's more prior, more critical, which is breathing, more important than thinking. Just breathing then allows you to deal with emergencies more clearly, because in just breathing you have access to a deeper consciousness. Deeper intelligence, emergency intelligence, psychic intelligence, causal intelligence, so you can slide up and down the time track. You go into the past, boom, come here, you're calm, go into the future, you can see what's going to happen, so you can see it already. So, breathing. See up here, oh, that's breathing. See down there, oh. Just breathing. It's all there. What? Some would call it Buddha nature or Christ consciousness, just breathing. Just like that. In a snap. Just breathing. Easy to talk about now, but put it to practice. You have no choice but to just breathe, by the way. You don't need anybody to tell you to do it. You do it. Now you need to be mindful of it to the degree where we're talking about this kind of openness, resonance, beyond the stuff we have to do, or we think we have to do.